How it does it. It's like are the owls like eyes and really red.
Okay, we're going live on YouTube for our worldwide audience.
Yes.
Okay. Before the chairs convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that tonight's meeting is being held on Kalakuya Alihi, the traditional indigenous homelands of the Kalakuya people, who continue to make contributions in the communities here and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to advise the City of Eugene staff and community organizations and partners on the implementation of Eugene's pedestrian and bicycle strategic plan, to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions, and to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and bicycling. Eugene City staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed on YouTube, meaning that it can be viewed on the City of Eugene's YouTube channel, both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary is held in the public record. Today's meeting begins with a 15-minute public comment period. The public comment period is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the Active Transportation Committee on transportation-related issues. Each person has 3 minutes to speak, and when it is your time, please give your name, your city, and if you live in Eugene, your ward or your neighborhood. We'll begin with those who are joining us online. There is nobody online. So we're good there. So we can turn to folks who are in person, and I have the list right here. Let's start with Jerry.
Hi, everyone. I'm doing public comment to comment on a few things. I was over in Ireland and England in August, and I was asked to share out a little bit on what I saw there. And I just have 2 takeaways, and they're short and sweet. In Galway, I noticed that a lot of the bike paths are actually diverted to the sidewalk itself. So they have extra wide sidewalks, and the bike paths, rather than being on the street, are on the sidewalk. So I thought that was kind of cool, just getting them completely out of the vehicle right away. It's a very relatively bike friendly city, and there's a lot of greenways in Ireland for those who are interested, and they're expanding them more and more every year. England was interesting, just on the opposite side. I spent most of my time in London, and I just noticed that there was a very low level of adherence to pedestrian crossing signs. As in, they have pedestrian crossing signs everywhere, and the signals, and there's the buttons to push, and there's the paint striping, and it just seems like no one really adheres to the signals and obeys that. And I just thought that was very, very interesting.
You mean pedestrians don't
The
obey them?
pedestrians don't,
Oh.
yeah.
But the vehicles do?
Vehicles, I think, give way, but pedestrians just walk on red all the time.
Oh.
If there's no one, they'll look both ways. If there's no one coming, they'll just, and it's just kind of rampant. So that was resonated with me because we had this discussion about protected bikeways in Eugene, and I'd been riding High Street a lot, and I had seen a lot of that, just bikes just flying through because they didn't like the way that the color of the signal or whatever. And so I just thought, adherence to, like, if you're gonna spend all this money on the signals and the signage and stuff, like, we should try and do whatever we can to make sure it works and people in a way that people can obey them. Anyway, that all said, I just wanted to, on a local note, ask planning to put on their radar the specific corner of Amazon Parkway and 29th Avenue. And I really, really, really strongly advocate for a no right turn on red on turning southbound on Amazon Parkway from 29th. I would really, really, really like that to somehow get elevated. No right turn on red. I just feel like that is an accident. That's an accident waiting to happen. I walk my kid there, and people come into the crosswalk very regularly. And my wife the other morning reported that a school bus turned on when the pedestrian signal was on walk into the crosswalk. So it's so so rampant, and I just feel like it's definitely an accident waiting to happen if there hasn't already happened, so.
Can I ask you a question about that? Are
Yeah.
they conflict, is the danger more for people crossing 29th or for the people crossing Amazon Parkway on
Parkway.
foot?
Yeah, it's all about.
So
Parkway.
they're looking to their left to see if there's a gap in traffic. And then by the time they turn right, the people have gotten the walk signal and start crossing, is that? what
Yeah,
they're
so
doing?
so people are waiting for the walk signal, they get the walk signal,
Mm.
the driver here is not cognizant of the fact that there's a pedestrian or looking is for the walk signal.
Mm.
They're just looking at a red light and looking at traffic, seeing if it's, looking left or right to
Looking
see if it's clear, and if it's
right.
clear, they just go and they don't look at that person
But
waiting.
it's because they're looking to the left for that gap in traffic to make the right turn on red.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
not that like when it turns green, if they got there on a green, they might be more aware that there's somebody there crossing.
Correct, I mean,
Right.
if it's green, it's not gonna be a pedestrian crossing. You're not gonna have a go on it, the pedestrians aren't gonna have a go anyway. Right, it's only when it's on red that the
Oh,
pedestrians.
Oh, the pedestrians only at that location,
Yeah.
they only get their walk signal when the drivers have, which is not typical, right? Compared to most intersections in Eugene, I mean, the
Are you
vehicles
sure
turn,
about that?
Yeah, so the pedestrian signal is only gonna say walk when the light is red. Right?
Okay,
Oh,
That of
you're-
course makes sense,
you're not
because
talking about-
you wouldn't wanna have people turning
I'm
right.
talking about in the same
Green light.
direction. He's
well,
talking
most intersections in Eugene, the cars can turn right across the
about.
walk.
And you're not talking
They have
about
to
hitting
stop.
someone there, it's talking about someone just right in front of you. Crossing the street.
You're talking about they're conflicting with the people crossing Amazon Parkway,
Amazon Parkway, west to east,
right?
are being threatened by drivers turning south. Right,
Or-
onto
Like
Amazon
that.
Parkway, yeah, it's just a.
Okay.
she kind of treated it as a pause, like a lot of drivers.
Oh, it's a pause, it's a rolling
Okay.
stop, or it's a pause, but it's just, there's a blindness to pedestrians waiting to cross right there. And it's a pretty high traffic intersection because of the park and the dog park and,
Yeah.
the bus station and.
And bikes are diverted up to the sidewalk too, which I don't care for.
Yeah,
You know,
Correct,
that's
yeah.
Paul's.
And that's
And
this, you're talking about right here.
Correct, that is the spot.
Yeah, so people are turning right here and people are trying to cross here, and so there's a conflict here, which is classic at intersections across the city is people are trying to turn right on red when these people have a green.
Look at that really rounded corner. too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was
that could be
thinking.
part of
They
it.
come
That's
out
what
like
I was
this.
thinking.
But what's different about this is when the cars do get their green, it's not when the people are in the crosswalk. Whereas in most intersections, you
Mhm.
get the green and the people are in the cross. That's why we do that leading pedestrian interval in a lot of places, because we want to give the pedestrians a head start before people start turning right.
Yeah.
Like say like a 29th alignment, but here it's different. This intersection operates differently. It sounds like what Jerry is saying, which I,
Yeah.
Okay.
And then no right on red is the request.
okay.
Great, thank you, Jerry, let's. Here, let
I
me-
wonder if the cars in the middle one have a green to
Um,
go straight or turn right.
let's move on to Rob has.
Hi, so I'm Rob Interfeld. I think I've met most of you. I'm the transportation planning manager, so I manage the team that Will is on. And I want to talk with something that's a little awkward, but like about, I don't know, sometime last year, Mark Schlossberg, who's a professor at the University of Oregon, was here to present work done by students in the Live Move program.
Right.
And one of the things he said was, he said something very negative about one of our colleagues, Chris Henry, who's the city's traffic engineer. I think some of you were not on the active transportation committee on the time, but some of you were. And I just want to let you know, like, first of all, I think what Mark did was very inappropriate to like really say something so negative about a city staff person who's been working pretty hard for like probably working for the city for over 25 years on making our transportation system work better. And Mark may not agree with everything that Chris decides, but Chris has done a huge amount for the city. And I think what happened was Chris was at the open house that was held for that Live Move project at the EMU sometime before that, and was just, sometimes Chris asked a lot of questions and like, how are we going to maintain this? What about that? But the fact is that our team works really closely with Chris's team to make our transportation system safer and make it work better. Just as an example, like our previous traffic engineer was very opposed to marking crosswalks. And now, like when our team requests a crosswalk, the answer is usually yes. When our team asks for them to work with us in a protected bikeway, the answer is usually yes. In fact, we made a mistake on our High Street project and we left some parking lane open by the federal courthouse, by the old federal courthouse, between 6th and 7th. And Chris was like, that is not okay. And so like the Homeland Security people were parking there, and Chris was like, that is not okay. We need to do something about that pronto. So Chris got his crews out there to put up, and that's why the barrier looks different for that one little spot. between 6th and 7th on the west side, because Chris had his team go out there and put barriers in there. So we work really closely together. They're really team players, and I'd say that's pretty true for most of the people at this. I mean, pretty much everyone at the city, we work well together. We have the same vision. We're not going to always agree on everything, but I think in general, we're moving in the right direction. Another thing that Chris's team has been dealing with is there's been a huge amount of wire theft from our shared use path lighting. And so they've had to come up with like different solutions to prevent. It's a huge problem in the country right now, copper wire theft, because people steal it. I mean, there's a Euphoria chocolate just had like their HVAC system stolen. I mean, there's a rampant problem with metal theft in our city and in our country. And of course, it costs so much more to repair the damage than the people are going to get for whatever they sell, right? So they're working really hard to try to come up with some solutions for dealing with that. I mean, sometimes they put like multi-ton blocks on top of the junction boxes. So just wanted to call that out and just say how much their team really means to us. I mean, they're the ones who time the signals, and we know we could do better with them, and we are working with them, like on High Street. I mean, I backed on High Street to work today, and I felt, I had stopped at every red light, I know the pain that people feel there. And so we're going to try to work with them to make that better. And Willow reminded me that the next ATC meeting too, Chris's staff, Brett and Natasha, who are actually the ones who time the traffic signals, are going to be here to talk with you all about how they do it. So I think it'll be a great opportunity to talk about High, 13th, 8th, and some of our other corridors. So thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Next public comment is from Connie.
Hi, I'm from Amazon. I know there's another pedestrian killed over this past month, and I'm not sure that that was the only one. I have a feeling there was another one, but I don't remember. But I do have something kind of funny, just not funny in a bad way, but I'm sure all of us here have had stuff stolen from their bike, lights, whatever. I've had a bunch of stuff stolen from my bikes and baskets, but this is the first time someone approached me like an old movie and said, "Hey, I've got something for you." I walked between the library and Kiva, and he wanted to sell me a padded seat cover for my bicycle that I'm sure that he had stolen from someone else. So that was just I just kind of looked at him and I just went, how bad is this gonna get? Anyway, one of the things I did want to bring up was that I've talked before about the stretch that we were talking about there on 29th, going from Amazon to Willamette, and there are really intensely aggressive weeds that grow in the cracks along there. And if the facilities people or whatever could get in there with a flamethrower or even with the industrial vinegar and get them early, because they spread and will spread all the way across the bike path there. It's really a pain. And they are very aggressive, and they'll tilt the concrete and everything.
Is that in the bike lane on 29th?
Yeah, from 29th, the Amazon up to Willamette.
Okay.
Yeah, some sections are really bad, and this is just beginning. You just get it
Yeah.
down, get it down to the roots, and
Before the rainy season. starts?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I can put it into our MS.
That's-
Okay, that is
Public official.
our public comment, so let's move on.
Yeah, our next agenda item is to approve the September meeting notes. So does anyone have any edits or feedback for Sue?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but in the public comment on Noah's comments, I'm not sure if he misspoke or if the notes were incorrect, but he referred to eastbound traffic on 24th getting up a lot of speed before they got to the intersection with Alder. It was supposed to be westbound.
Oh.
And I think, also when I read through the notes, I think we were going to put that intersection on a future agenda item, and I don't think it made the future agenda items.
24th and Alder.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments on the notes? Echo? Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah, can you leave the audio?
Great. Is there a motion to approve with those edits, or do we have to wait till next time to?
oh, that's a great question. I think we can approve them pending that I make
Okay.
the corrections.
All right, is there a motion to approve pending
So moved.
corrections? Do a second. All in favor? All right,
Wait.
approved.
Sue moved to approve, who seconded? Or?
Wasn't that Mary?
Oh.
Yes.
Legally, that's the only thing I have to report in the notes.
Great, on top of it. All right, our next agenda item is Alan's going to present on the Alder Street Railroad underpass.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna retitle this really about a connection to the river. Okay, and I've got a lot to share this evening, and I'll try to go right through it. And when I talked about this subject in the past, a lot of times people have been a little bit confused about the location of what we're talking about. So I decided to make you all a movie. And I was going to bring you popcorn. I have it all here, the salt, the nutritional use, the popcorn, and even have the maker in the bowl, but I forgot one part.
Oh.
So I'm gonna promise you popcorn next time. Okay? 'Cause I thought popcorn in movies could be really fun. So I'm going to, hopefully this is gonna work. I hope the sound from the movie goes through. Should come through. And so I just press share here, I think, and get my screen I want.
And then click share sound, and that should be the key like that. And then share button.
And then I guess I can. And you can adjust on too?
I can, yeah, and then click that share at the bottom.
Hmm. Ask me for password. Classic.
Where are the previews?
I think we got it. Okay. Here we go. Oh, you can't hear this, can you? Can you hear it?
Hey,
Can you hear it?
Maybe.
Willow, maybe you need to.
In second grade class, it's like. what's
If
up?
anyone hasn't looked at the
What's
Oakway
up?
The film projector?
Yeah, yeah.
that would be a good thing to do right now.
Yeah, but they were just sent to you about 20 minutes before the meeting. Because they didn't go out with the agenda.
Or the sidewalks was.
Are there printed copies? I see some.
I have one.
That came from my printer. I
Here.
can pass it on when
Yeah,
I,
if
after I
anybody-
read it.
Can you bring any for the group? That's good. Or you go friendly without the paper, I guess.
I don't have a printer. unfortunately.
I haven't met us going.
That was just
Make it.
$3
But-
printers and stuff.
I think what we can do is
Ooh, I like
do the
this font.
HDMI and it should be able to show from your computer. Well, that won't actually fix the audio problem though.
Could you send it to Willow and then Willow could play it?
I'm not sure why it's not playing out of the.
Speaker.
Always tech issues.
Yeah.
Cause it should just play out of the owl. Hey, Misty, could you try speaking just to see where we hear you from?
Hello, can you hear me? How are you all doing?
We're doing great, thanks.
Good to see you, Misty.
Nice
So-
hairdo.
The Zoom
Thank you.
coming out from there, so I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe it did.
Am I for videos?
It's not.
And then click
Weirdly sending it out. I hope it went out.
Could cancel for that.
Were there a lot of edits to when you saw the shot the first time? Was there an attachment?
We're not.
Oh,
I got an
yes,
email, but I didn't-
I attached it to a, the thing of the agenda.
Oh, here's the-
Not yours.
My cooking place still.
This was.
I just kind of replied. to it.
Go ahead and click play.
Showing me around campus,
Had it for a second.
I want
Yeah.
to go ahead and watch it with this audio. If we put the computer more in the middle, people might be able to hear it. It's relatively loud.
Okay. Best we can do.
I think that's the best we can do.
Thank you for showing me around campus. It's bustling.
Yeah, of course. There's 25,000 people at the University of Oregon. Do you want to take a ride to the river?
There's a river nearby? Is it nice down there?
Yeah, the Willamette River. It's only 5 blocks that way. There's an overlook, plaza. There's an old steamboat plant that they might turn into a brew pub one day. They moved City Hall by the river. It's right next to the bike path.
Oh, let's go. I just love these special bike lanes that you have in your team. Where's the river?
Right there.
Oh, it's not.
How do we get there?
Just left.
What? Now where?
Just right.
Across the railroad tracks. Oh, I hate railroad tracks.
Make a right and then a left. Go across. And then turn, okay?
It's so beautiful. You know, you were really lucky to have the river so close to campus. What are they doing over there?
They're building apartments and a new park. It's taken about 15 years and at least $100 million. The idea is to connect people to the river, make it easier to bike and walk.
All right. But you know, I like to ride my bike, but I am no biker. My eyesight's not that good anymore, so things like those railroad tracks, they scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, they scare me too, but there's no other way to go.
Well, I'm not gonna do it again.
We're in the acting credits, so.
That's just the beginning of my resolution. Thanks to both Trish and Gabby
There you go.
for helping out with that project.
Did you have some extras in there too?
Got some extras in there too, yes, it's
Oh,
true.
like the car.
It was
Now
the
we
car.
have Sharing.
Yeah.
Nice. Great. So I can't see the whole thing. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Thanks. Now we said. You know about that box up there? It says,
Oh,
can
yeah.
we get rid of that?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back here. Oh, it's kind of slow. It's a kind of delay, isn't it? Okay, okay. So creating a safe connection to the Willamette River. Okay, that's what this is about. Okay. And, can you remove thing in spot? Yeah, that's it, that's what I want. Let me see the whole thing. There's so much spell. Uh-oh. You had it full screen. Full screen, there we go.
Why?
You had it.
Did I?
I think so.
Get rid of it. We are trying full screen, are we on full screen?
She did that. Yeah, I tried full screen, it was still the same issue.
Okay.
If we got rid of the gallery.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we can.
I remember a problem like this before.
We're,
It doesn't really scroll or anything.
I can't really do that.
Can you shrink it? So we can,
No, I can't do that either.
So there are a couple random other. Make one call.
No, see, I get this little green box around that I can show.
Very awesome.
can you try making it smaller to fit within that green box?
Now, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do,
Do better.
That.
Yes.
Across.
Yep, that works.
One like in the middle.
Okay.
Weird place. Cool. There's one. Yeah. See if we can do this.
good adapting.
yeah, gotta do that here, right?
It's very nice, a little bit on the way back.
Okay,
I think
Well,
I can see
there we
it.
go. The beginning. Now we're back. Creating a safe connection to the Willamette River for everyone. Okay, so I've got a few points that I want to make here. And first is that right here. Ta-da. That boring little piece of land is unlike any other piece of land in the city. It's rather pedestrian, no pun intended, but that is a connection that's unique. And that creating a safe railroad crossing for all people should be at the top priorities. That's one of the things that I want to get across. And this is really a lot more than just transportation. It's really about equity. It's about inclusion, and it's about who we are as a city. And the third point is that the city really should start acting now. And I'll get to that. And I was gonna feed you popcorn, and in exchange for feeding them popcorn, I was gonna ask for two things. One is that you think beyond bikes and transportation. Unfortunately, we don't have a citizens committee that looks at the intersection between transportation and recreation and economy and land use and all those things. We don't have that. The only thing we really have is city council. But this is a piece of infrastructure, and so I'm starting here, active transportation committee. I'm asking you to think beyond that. Beyond bike head there. I'm also asking you to use your imagination, which isn't something we always do here, so. Let's talk about what makes this stretch of the river, and I'm talking about like between the steam plant and the Fazio Bridge, that downtown section of the river is unique. Well, it does provide transportation, we know that, but not just transportation for bicycles, it also provides recreation for skateboarders, for rollerbladers, for one wheels. It provides recreation for bird watchers. So it's a different kind of recreation than some of the other transportation facilities we have. But it's also a destination. And the river path is a destination in of itself. And there's really no other place in the city where a transportation facility is also, with maybe the exception of the farmers market plaza, it's a destination in itself. I mean, here's the bike path is right there, and there's hundreds of people gathered. It's a wide spot in the bike path. That connection that I showed you is also provides access. It provides access to parks, it provides access to City Hall, to downtown, to the University of Oregon, to Autzen Stadium. It provides access to more places than any other place that I can think of in the city. And it's key to the riverfront neighborhood. For those of you who haven't been around Eugene for a long time, the riverfront neighborhood has been a vision for about 20 years. And Mayor Baskin, 30 years ago, said, let's get back to the river. And city leaders have been talking about connecting to the river for the last 30 years. If you look through old newspapers, you'll see connect to the river is a continual theme. And the developers have done their part. In the private development, there's the walkway that goes from Fifth Avenue diagonally right to the river. But on the west end is city property, not private development. And there isn't the same quality of connection. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent to create this neighborhood. I should also say that this area of the city reflects our identity as a city. There's the DeFazio Bridge there. And I just want to point out that the DeFazio Bridge is only a couple hundred yards from the Ferry Street Bridge, which provides a perfectly adequate crossing for people bicycling and walking from one side to the other. But the city decided to spend millions of dollars anyway to create the DeFazio Bridge because it reflects who we are as a community. And because we wanted to connect Alton Baker Park with the river path. So sometimes we make decisions as a community, not because of utility or functionality, it's because it represents who we are as a community. Right. Now I want you to use your imagination in the future. Imagine at the riverfront that there's a bubble festival. Wouldn't that be cool? A bubble festival? Imagine these kids. Maybe some of them live in the Amazon or South University neighborhood. And their parents say, let's ride our bikes down to the river. Oh, there's all that railroad, all that stuff. No, let's just drive. Imagine the steam plant. This is a different steam plant that was converted, I think it was in Seattle, into a brew pub. Imagine that steam plant being converted and an administrator at the university wants to take some new faculty down to show what parts of Eugene. And again, they're walking, he's thinking about, oh, I'm gonna walk along Broadway. Man, there's 20,000 cars a day. It's noisy. And maybe I'll just take them to Rennie's. So there's a lot of possibilities down there. But people have to be able to get there and they have to be able to want to get there. So we have opportunities and we don't want to miss those opportunities. 2 years ago, the Dutch cycling ambassadors, they came to Eugene and they left a strong impression on me. They said, a bicycle network is only as good as the weakest link. And we know all the professional APBP professionals and so on and so forth, will tell you that we need low stress networks. They have to be connected. What does low stress mean? It has to be safe, it has to be convenient, it has to be pleasant. That'd be beautiful, it has to be pleasant, I should say that. Okay, so as my understanding is that the city's plan, and it's what's in the TSP, is to improve the connection, and it's hard to see in this, but I'm gonna use a little pointer here, by removing the car travel lane here and turning this into a protected bike lane or a wide sidewalk or something of that sort. Basically, that's what this is right here. We're maybe removing that lane there. And that's great. I am all for that. And I really appreciate the creativity of staff for doing that. I think it'll be a tremendous improvement. But many people will not or cannot cross railroad tracks. Children, I've never seen young children on their own cross those railroad tracks. Rarely with parents, sometimes. Parent with stroller might hesitate. Maybe a couple of college students who are first or second time on rollerblades. That's dicey too. Today I was walking along the river today and I saw a person, I was riding along the river and I saw a person with a 3-legged dog. And the dog was like doing pretty well, but it was kind of hobbling a little bit. And I thought, I bet that person didn't take the dog across the railroad tracks. Point is that there's lots of different reasons why people don't cross railroad tracks. And then even with a closure, I'm not sure if you're gonna get this. Oh, darn, yeah. Ah, darn. There's a video here too. Not gonna get the video. No, anyway, this truck's zooming through here and that truck was just honking away for no apparent reason. So it still wouldn't be a pleasant place, even with this lane closed, there's still 20,000 cars there, there's still dust, there's still pollution, there's still trucks and semis going through there. So it would be a big improvement, but it's not gonna be great. I got this quote the other day that I really like. You can't justify a bridge by counting the number of people who swim across the river. Right? And I extended that. And you can't justify an underpass by counting the number of able-bodied dudes who ride their bikes across railroad tracks. Because I'm an able-bodied dude and I can do it, but there's a lot of people who don't. That said, and some of you know this, here's a person who was able-bodied. James DeWitt, I didn't know him, but he was in his mid-40s and he was crossing Hilliard Street railroad tracks about 10 years ago. The train hit him and killed him. He had 2 children, probably teenagers now. He's no longer with us. Looks like someone could be on this committee. One of the extras that was in that video, I'm sorry, I asked around some people to help me with the video. And one of the persons that I contacted about being in the video said, as long as we're not near the railroad tracks. And I was like, I said, why? And they said, my spouse died on the railroad tracks about half a mile away. And I can't go there anymore. I can't go near railroad tracks. So all these reasons we don't even know. But there are people, and a lot of those people are marginalized people, right? The elderly, people with poor vision, people in wheelchairs, people who are low income and don't have cars. So here's a satellite view. And what I want to point out here, it's a little hard to see, a couple things. One is there's a lot of land that the city owns here nearby. This is all parks recently acquired by the city of Eugene. This is also city of Eugene, the infrastructure. There's this little chunk here by the Motel 66 or 66 Motel as it is. There's this over here. So there's a lot of opportunities. I have drawn in this pink line here, like one possible route to be able to connect more directly to the river. Now, this is not an engineering diagram, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but there could be other ways, you know, possibly with redevelopment, maybe an underpass could connect here. I don't know, but that's not really the point. The details. Oops. So is it possible? So I appreciate that years ago, Rob had commissioned a feasibility study. It's like 14 years ago now. And a local engineer said, yes, you could do it. You could do an underpass. You could also do an overpass, which would be more expensive and more complicated, but it's possible. And for that reason, in part, it got put onto our transportation system plan. And there it is, right there. There's a little crossing. It got put into this area of to be constructed beyond 20 years. But you know, there are other parts of our TSP that were also beyond 20 years. Right here is, you can't really see that too well either. That's Howard Avenue. That was supposed to be more than 20 years. Well, within a couple of years, funding was available. And now actually just this week, as I understand, Howard Avenue upgrades have been completed. So it didn't take 20 years because circumstances changed. The TSP is not a binding document. So we take opportunities when they arise. So is now the time? I say yes, now is the time. Why? First, it takes a long time to secure the funds and to design and to construct an underpass. Back there. Oh, and I wish you could see this next video too. You're not going to get to see this. Why now? We've heard Union Pacific's a pain in the butt to work with, and I believe it. This video that I took last year is before game day in November. It's in the evening, as you can tell. And what you would see is a string of people. I would say probably somewhere between 300 or 400 people, mostly college students, crossing the railroad tracks at night.
I saw it last weekend. It looked just like that.
Yeah, was it night?
Yep.
Yep. And they came back probably 3 hours later and tired, probably some of them drunk. That's a real liability for railroad. That's, and it's also scary to see that. I have a hunch that if Union Pacific saw a video of literally hundreds, if not thousands of people crossing the railroad track at night, and the city said, we'd like to create an underpass to eliminate that hazard, I have a hunch that they would be willing. I would just say that the railroad quiet zones in general do not improve safety. They just reduce quietness, and we're spending about $5 to $10 million just to reduce quietness or to reduce noise. Not to say it's a bad thing. I actually really support the railroad quiet zone, but just saying that for $5 to $10 million, we're getting quiet. Here we have a situation that might cost a similar amount to improve actual safety and access. So here's another time you can see people on their phone. Again, you can see this like long line. I mean, this is only part of me. It just goes on. I stood there for 20 minutes and it was just a steady stream of people. It's phenomenal. And I'm going to be doing a site visit next week. So time for another game. So y'all can join. I'll tell you more about that later. Why else now? Well, it's an expensive project. Rob pointed that out. This is an expensive project to create an underpass. But here's the thing. Eugene City Council approved $75 million more spending in the riverfront urban renewal area. So this gray area is riverfront urban renewal. It's tax increment financing, which means that taxes are diverted and are used in this area, and it can only be used in that area. And in January, City Council specified that they wanted to be used for a variety of things, including bike paths and connectivity. The City Council is wise. They know that the city has invested millions and millions of dollars in this area already, and you have to finish the job. It would be like the city building a pool and then saying, oh, we don't have money for a fence or for lifeguards, but you can use it. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But here we have a situation where we don't have a safe connection on the west end of a project. And City Council might not want to use entirely use urban renewal funds, but there are other sources. There's the Oregon Community Path Program, which is intended to connect communities' pathway, multi-use paths. And there are other funds as well that can be leveraged with the urban renewal funds. Also, why now, as some of you know, that 66 motel, it's boarded up. It's not being used as a motel. It hasn't been used for a motel for a while now. It's being used for parking because parking actually probably makes more money. But it's just sad, but true. Some of that land that I showed you on an earlier slide, I'm going to show it to you again here. Right in here might be necessary for a path. If Motel 66, if they decide to do something else with this and redevelop it, we might lose the opportunity for people to access the river and people from the river to access the university and other points for generations. We don't want to miss that opportunity. So, can't build underpass everywhere. Unfortunately, it's expensive, not possible. But it connects places that have meaning. These are listed the places that have meaning to us as a city. What better place to spend our resources than creating access for all people? And many of you know how passionate and long I've worked on this. And the reason why is because it's not about able-bodied dudes like me. It's really about social justice. It's really so that everyone has access to all places that we care about as a community. And that weird little place at 8th and Hilliard is the nexus. So that is the end of my presentation. And I will entertain questions in a moment. But I also want to, well, I'll leave this up in case you've got questions about that.
Yeah.
My hope is with the ATC to write a formal letter to city staff and to city council, asking them to prioritize this connection to the river and to begin securing the funds and lands for the eventual construction of a safe crossing. Which may take many years, but we need to begin now.
Thanks, Alan.
So, any questions?
Sort of have one, but it, I actually mean, it actually doesn't relate to that crossing. It just is coming up and, since you're doing this and we have staff here, I'm curious with Franklin being, and I'd say this actually does not take away from Alan's presentation at all. I want to make that clear because these are kind of far away from each other and that is like way more important. But there's this lovely crossing at like Onyx that is almost useless kind of spatially where it is. And like with Franklin being redone, like could be really cool. I'm trying to imagine where the connectability is happening there. But I imagine
If you,
it's university right now.
so if you're going away from the river, that Onyx connection, does everyone know it's the one that lines up with the Fromere Bridge? Then it kind of connects to like a T intersection right by the urban farm. And so I call that the Mill Race path right there. So you could take that left and it goes for a few blocks all the way down to almost to like Walnut. No, not Walnut. Yeah, it goes to Mill Race Drive, which connects to Garden Avenue, which we enhanced a few years ago. And so it's sort of a nice alternative to the river path. And then if you make a right there, you kind of get to sort of Onyx Street and there's that path. It's not super wide, it's along the Mill Race Pond. And so our plans are to take a lane off of Franklin there going westbound. And when that path comes up to Franklin by that new apartment building, to actually have a full path that would take you all the way to the area where Alan's talking about. And then the plan is for where we kind of go around that curve there, we would take a travel lane out there. We might not widen the path, maybe a little bit, right where there's a bike rider coming the other way and she was like, but well, what we want to do is put a buffer in there so you're not right next to traffic. So take out that lane, put in a planted buffer with like street trees or stormwater facilities or something, so that there's more. And all the bikeway all the way would be, the idea is it would be buffered with some kind of greenery. So does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, it does. It's awesome because that path like spits you out into Franklin. And if you're not going into the middle of the university, you're just like, oh, this is a useless item, except it's an awesome way to get across the train tracks.
Yeah.
And the other side through the Mill Race, it's like this magical little secret when you're a college student, but it's like not super fun.
Jerry, did you have a question?
I don't know if it's so much a question as just, a comment on the presentation, which was, I remember the first time I saw you present on this was probably almost 2 years ago. And at that time, honestly, I was kind of a little, I don't know if it was skeptical, but it just didn't have such a strong impact. But a couple of things have happened between then and now that I think have really changed things, and that is the development of the riverfront area in general, all the sidewalk and bike path that connect the actual multi-use bike path by the river there, and the city hall moving in, and then actually even just that Alder Street protected bikeway being totally completed and down to Franklin. I've been using it a lot more in the last year and a half. And I remember it was about a year and a half ago that I took my son down there, and he where you turn crossing Franklin, you turn left to be up on the sidewalk there. He had a hard time navigating that and he ran into the chain link fence and he ripped open his finger pretty good. He still talks about it to this day. And speaking about being dangerous for kids, dangerous for people, he certainly thought it was so. And I know that a protected bikeway there would really help. But thinking long term, this vision of an underpass really, we're talking about a real connectivity, a really like citywide connectivity. It's a huge nexus now. That riverfront area is still developing. It's going to be an even bigger neighborhood and hub. The park, and then of course the University District, all of South Eugene coming down through that Alder Street bikeway. So I think today where I'm at on it is much stronger in favor of it. I think it would be a really wise long-term investment for the city to do something big there, namely an underpass. It would be safer, much more easily navigable. It would increase interest in that, in actually using that system and that connection, reduce barriers. So I would sign on to that letter, and I would certainly advocate that the ATC consider prioritizing this, because I don't think it's at the level of being just like benefiting me because I live in that neighborhood. It's really, it's much more on the city level now. I think it's about long-term connectivity of large, important parts of the city.
I do want to point out that we are over time on our agenda, but maybe we can take one more question. Peter, comment?
Yeah, more of a comment. Coming into this presentation, I was thinking like, what does an underpass do that the quiet zone doesn't? Because the quiet zone will make it a little easier, but I think you're absolutely right. And like everything you were saying as well, Jerry, like, it's not just about technically being able to get to the river. It's about that being like a joyous process. Like, and like, if we want people to actually get on their bikes, we want to make sure it's an enjoyable process for them to do so. If we want people to walk to the river, and if we're putting all this investment in the river, it totally makes sense that we should also invest in getting to that river in a way that's safe for all. So thank you, Alan.
Yeah, you're welcome. I forgot to point out, I'm gonna turn off lights for just a second here, just about imagination here. I grabbed this image here from City of Davis, and which has dozens and dozens of underpasses and ranks highest in the West Coast for bicycle network by People for Bikes, because they have so many underpasses in part. And I used that image, but I added some artwork. I added these salmon, I added these camas flowers to it, because it doesn't have to be utilitarian. We can celebrate it, right? This can be something that the university is proud of, and we can have this is the Millrace Pass in Springfield. There's interpretive signs, and part of our path has interpretive signs. There could be native plantings and so forth. So I think I'm trying to paint a broader picture that this is not just about utility. So, thank you. Oh, thanks.
Could we put
This
this,
always happens with presentations. You think about right afterwards, like, oh, I forgot to say.
maybe put this on like our next agenda so we have time to discuss it? And
Yeah.
and it seems like if there's anything that we should hear from the city to consider, while we discuss it, you know what I mean? If there are any components that we need to be made aware of, that might be handy. But I think it'd be nice to have like small group discussions if we can, and then see where we get something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I
Add
guess
it to
I
the
would
next
just,
agenda.
in the sense of getting stuff done, Alan, could you, or would you like a committee to draft a letter that, that for the ATC to consider, as opposed to trying to come in and draft as a big committee on the fly?
Right, you and I spoke about the possibility of infrastructure subcommittee. To a couple, 2, 3 of us working on that. I think I would prefer to work with other people, so that it's not just something I'm writing, but that it's really a group problem.
For the sake of time, I could potentially do Oakway next time,
Okay,
just because it didn't get sent out to everyone.
okay, yeah, we can add that to the next meeting.
Are we talking about moving
Um,
Oakway to the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because Catherine let me know that that probably won't be happening anytime.
The Oakwood
soon.
project has been paused.
Yes.
So we do have more time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, we could push that to next meeting. to take
Okay.
the time.
Okay, yeah, that helps a lot.
Yep.
And that would also give people time to review the stuff, which
Exactly.
Yeah.
we failed to send out ahead of time. With that in mind, we do have Rob here, which I feel like is useful and doesn't always happen. So when Rob and I were chatting and I was like, do you want to come to the ATC meeting? We know that Alan is really supportive of this project, but we really wanted to like hear from everybody and see like what the pulse was for other members. And we've heard from Peter and Jerry, but it might be a good opportunity for other folks on the committee to sort of, without repeating what's already been said necessarily, sort of describe where their mind is at and the trade-offs for funding in different parts of the city and the things that we've expressed in the past, just to hear where people are at with this project. If we do have the extra time.
Sure.
I just have a question. What is there a plan for kind of that no man's land that was recently acquired in that area?
Not that I'm aware of yet. You mean like on the other side, on the river side of the
Yeah,
tracks?
on the west side, yeah.
That was acquired from the university. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't think the city has developed plans for that yet.
Okay.
I would add that, currently, when I go to the river from like University area, I'm going from like that, from the other side, you know, like Agate Street down, so it's nice to have that connection. But then on the other side of campus, it would be nice to have also the other side of the connection. And just watching that video, I mean, it does seem, just illustrates perfectly like how hazardous it is and kind of complicated to get through to the river in that area. So I think it looks like a great opportunity to build something like an underpass. I love a good bike bridge, but that sounds like it's more expensive. But yeah, especially for the university students crossing over on game day, but then also just like in general, those housing options that are on the other side of the river now could use that underpass regularly. So I would be in favor of it. Mary? Well, I'm in favor of it if, unless I hear some other compelling information that we don't have. And I just feel it's part of completing the network. You know, that's what we keep talking about, is completing the network, and I feel like that is a really good part of the network. I too would love to have an overpass. I don't actually love going under underpasses, like to say, I don't feel that, you know, there are people who hang out and stuff like that, so I'm not, you know, I don't love that. But I think we could, with art and everything, we could make it pretty nice and lighting and things, but I prefer an overpass, which I know is more expensive. And I don't think, and, you know, I don't know enough about funding, but I don't like to frame it as, well, do you want to do this or these projects? And I don't like that, because I feel like it's, unless we have to look at it that way, I feel like this is like a separate project that we want to get funded, and maybe there's money, you know, I'm thinking there might be funding for that, you know, we don't have to weigh it necessarily against other projects and give something else up. And I think it's a good idea. I don't think we should have people waiting for trains, masses of people waiting for trains on cars and bikes. It's not friendly to active transportation, and it's not safe. And I don't think we should do that. Thank you, Alan. That was a good presentation too.
It's like,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Brad.
oh,
Sure.
yes, 1 second. Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Oh, so I've heard Alan speak on this before, and thank you, Alan. The presentation was great. And just a couple things. One is that I've had the opportunity to ride with somebody who is new to Eugene and not necessarily a normal commuter. And you know, you want to show people Alder Street because it's just great. You want to show people the river path because it's gorgeous. And that is a really, really ugly section. It's not safe. It's not very pretty. And those two pieces just need to be connected better. If from a commute standpoint, that used to be my commute, and that little section in there drove me nuts every day getting across that train track. So I would be in full support of this project.
Thanks, Brad. Charlotte?
So in the spirit of connection, I can't really speak to it because it's not part of my regular haunt in terms of connectivity with the whole system. But in terms of connectivity, I'm wondering where you see the opportunity, Alan, a better liaison between the city and perhaps Federal or Union Pacific and the university, because it's such a key location piece there. And from your video, I know you asked me to be on the video and I declined. It's not very far, right? So, I'm just wondering how they've been or not been pulled into this whole conversation, if we're talking system-wide.
Right, right. I have not approached the university or other, government agency. That's not really my role. I guess I could, reach out to the university. There's no university property adjacent to this area, so I do think getting their buy-in would be a positive thing, especially if it's going to city council to, for allocation of funds.
Well, I'm wondering what might be in their interest to have this done. If we're talking about the political capital of this, so to speak, why would it be beneficial for them to have this kind of infrastructure there or not?
Yeah, I mean, show the video after any night game of hundreds of kids, half of whom are possibly inebriated, crossing railroad tracks. Publicize that. That's a serious safety issue that the university would think would want to be very aware of and probably reduce any risk. To their student population.
Yeah, I mean,
It really does look like that. I was there just last Friday. It really does look like that.
there's both the reducing of risk, but there's also incredible possibility. I think to actually brand the university as a university near the river. It's only 5 blocks. I can completely imagine faculty, staff, all people like, I got time on my lunch break, let's go down to the river. And especially if it's really made attractive, it could be a game changer for the university in terms of their public relations.
And so that's why I'm making that connection.
Yes.
I just want to jump in really quick. I know that I'm here like as a member of the public and a representative of BPAC, but you probably also know that I work at the university as the active transportation coordinator. So the notes that I take from these meetings go to my department and our new transportation planner, who started last month. So this will definitely be seen by his eyes and the director, and happy to put that in front of everybody.
Nice, thank
I'd like
you.
to remind everybody, we always forget that Bushnell is right there. We're always talking about the university, but Bushnell is right there. They've taken over the old hotel as a dormitory and administration. So they are smack dab on it, and their students, I mean, it could be a real promo for them to say, hey, we are just a short walk, an easy, pleasant walk across to the river path where you can, jog and run and see the river with your friends. So that's another 1,000 students or so that have an absolute direct line along Alder to Franklin Cross.
Yeah, it's a great point, Connie, because they only have that side of Campus City.
Yes,
The
right.
U of O, they can go down to by Agate and cross that way and access the river that way, but Bushnell is much more
They're smack
limited.
dab right there.
That's a good point. I think another thing to maybe add to strengthen your argument, amongst all the other things that you've added that are amazing and wonderful, is what is the time saving if there were to be a shorter path? Like, how many miles does that cut off of the commute? How much time are you saving getting across the river, in addition to the safety element, which is also outlined? So I don't know if you've thought about that. or not.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
okay.
depends if a train's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time check, by the way, I hate to, but we actually just went through like the next 3 items and our break.
Yeah, you're right, we did. Wow, time flies. Thank you. Okay, let's
Okay.
call it. Yes, Rob, let's get a final.
First of all, I just want to say I really appreciate the discussion. I appreciate Alan bringing this. I mean, I think as staff, part of what we see is just like the opportunity cost of spending, say, like $6 million on this, and what else could we get to with that money in this part of town? And we have all these other projects we're trying to tee up. I think, I'm sorry to hear about what happened to your son there. The project we're gonna do, I think we'll prevent that kind of thing from happening, because we'll pull the curb back further south there, and there'll be more room. Those turns are so tight there when you cross on your bike, and that fence is awful. And it was very frustrating to me when that fence was installed, because it wasn't supposed to go down like that. It was the city put that in, so. Anyway, so, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we see is like where this would connect, there's not anything there, it would just connect in the river park. And it's not where the destinations are that people are going. And so, I mean, but I hear what you're saying about how some people may not want to cross on the railroad tracks. And if there's a train there, obviously, that could be a problem. And sometimes trains are long, or they take a while, or they stop. I don't know what I mean, I don't cross the train tracks a lot, just in terms of my daily goings on, but I'd be curious what people's experiences are in that area. Like, do the trains stop a lot there or not? I don't, because I just don't know. I know in the Whitaker, maybe it's worse as you get closer to the rail yard.
It can be a delay stop and they'll wait back for a train at the depot. So they'll
Okay.
delay across there and wait for the depot.
Got it.
It's interesting though, when I've been there, they often stop just shy of that crossing, because I'll be
Okay.
approaching it thinking, oh crap, there's a rail, and there's a train, and
Well, that's
actually, no. they're
thoughtful
not.
of them. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know why that happens, but it's happened several times.
I mean, that's the first crossing, right? Of our 10, we have 10 crossings, so. So, I mean, well, I think we'll talk about it more in our team too, and obviously you guys have the ability to make recommendations, you, as individuals, you can advocate to city council. Which also serves as, I can't remember the exact name of it, but that, they, when they oversee the urban renewal spending, they do, which Alan. I don't know if you talked about that tonight at all, but there's like, they increased the spending authority for the. Riverfront Urban Renewal District, which this crossing is in, by up to $75 million, so I think Alan saw there's this opportunity now. That could potentially pay for it, and so we have a lot of things we're trying to get for that fund too, like where we're gonna take a lane off of Broadway and widen the sidewalk, or put in street trees and widen the sidewalk and other things like that, so, but still, I mean, I'm kind of I'm warming up to it, I guess I'll say, and I'm interested to see what some other folks on my team think about it, and we could talk more about it, so.
Thank you.
Should we move to our break then?
Yeah.
Okay, let's break for 5 minutes and come back.
6:42.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving so much time. I really do appreciate
I
that.
mean, I think I don't, we could discuss not having somebody. Yeah, I mean, I was watching that, I was next, so I was like, ridiculous. But I was like, things do deserve discussion.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, we can talk about this in 5 minutes. Oh, we should just. Yeah. It's like 20 minutes. You're not gonna stand here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Know that one well.
Yeah. How about you? How are you? Yeah.
Yeah, just a lot going on with work.
Yeah. Work until the work's done or.
Yeah.
Is that-
No, that's me. That's me, because I don't know myself, and I say yes
You
to.
want to do a good
a
job.
lot of things, so. Well, it's just like sometimes timelines just overlap, like I've got different projects that I've got to fix middles.
Oh, we have been thinking a little bit.
Next week, so it's just, they all just kind of happen. Yeah, I don't, I will not.
Yeah.
That's like I'm like, I'll do it one week, but I will not work like
That's
that.
good. That's a good hard line. I used to be a teacher. At least one day.
Oh, yeah. I burn out too quickly if I do that.
I think this year especially, we've moved more to like, let's present an intersection. This has to be done, like, notice that we like talking about one specific.
Right.
We've done that a lot more this year.
Yeah. I'm saying if we paved it, if we paved this path, then we'll get to work.
I've given up on pavement.
Oh, I biked it up the other day. It's like gravel. There's like a.
I go over here.
Let's
get back to the meeting.
Bang your gavel, Lucy.
If
The
everyone
problem with pavement
could
is that it still makes me a sharp right turn.
take a seat
And then,
and get.
and then I'm over here, and I need to go that way.
Right. So I'm just thinking we can do it.
Yeah. I mean, next time I could cross before the traffic, but it doesn't give you that option.
Get settled. Yeah, hand goes up. Like a plasma. Okay, so since we are a little off time on our agenda, the next agenda, we'll just continue to follow the order with the reduction of the Oakway bikeway discussion. So the next agenda item is for the sidewalk subcommittee recommendations. So that is the job.
Is it possible to pull them up? Willow, is it possible to put those on the screen?
What am I putting on the screen?
The sidewalk letter?
The sidewalk letter, did it get sent out to the?
It did in a letter, email from Mary like a few minutes ago, I guess.
Oh,
Last week,
ago.
no, last week.
No, last week. It was resent. It was resent recently. She also sent it weeks ago.
Oh, resent. I thought you said it was recent. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, 20 minutes ago would be
It was
recent.
resent today. It was. That's why.
Sure. Folks online can see this? Yeah. Cool, all right, thanks, Brad.
I'm gonna get some of the lights down and move it.
Wow.
You have the lights. Thank you.
I was actually doing the wrong thing. That's okay, it's on the screen now. So basically, a lot of letters that, I'm not gonna go through this because it's not really recommendations. That's what I'm getting to. A lot of letters that we have previously said have been a lot of recommendations. And I think we're still interested in doing that, but as a sidewalk committee, what we found was a couple things. One being that staff is working on sidewalks a lot already. That was one thing we found. Another was that there are some side groups doing a lot of advocacy, which is kind of cool and have actually been getting some meetings. Some of us are involved in that, but some aren't. So we were thinking what would be actually the most effective use of a letter rather than writing some recommendations that might end up oh, we're doing this already. We just in a drawer. And we're like, well, we wanted to stay involved and engaged with this. And we came up with a lot of questions talking to staff. And so we were just hoping essentially that this would stay on the agenda and staff would come back with some updates and possibly some answers to as many of these questions as feasible within the next 6 months. And that's the major request. And that was the major purpose of this letter. I would say one thing in the email that Mary sent out earlier today, we actually, I think, got most of the answers to the initial question about Rob and Jody's meeting. I feel like it's kind of evident what happened there, to me at least, from information that was gathered today. But everything else, I think is still pretty relevant, and that's what's going on here. That makes sense to everyone.
So the sidewalk subcommittee has put together all of these questions, and the idea is that in a future agenda item, staff could come and do their best to sort of go through these and respond.
Yeah.
Okay, in addition to potentially a written response?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping, now that was me speaking, and not anyone else, I was hoping for a PowerPoint.
Okay,
But-
gotcha.
But in some dialogue, so.
As a dialogue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Cause chances are we won't have succinct answers for everything. Some
Right.
things will be like, this is the answer, and other things we're like, well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's messy, so that's.
These
what-
were also supposed to be helpful to guiding staff. I mean, we had some very positive interaction with Jody when she came to our sidewalk subcommittee meeting. And actually, when I said it was evident, is like, we gave some feedback to a presentation that she gave. And I can see that that was integrated, like, so rather than just be like, here's like conflict, it's like, here's how we can make you better.
How long ago was that?
Circa May.
Okay, a while ago, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just this week, since we've written this letter, some of us had the opportunity to meet with Rich, the new Director of Public Works. It was for this, another committee we're on that's working on sidewalks, more of an advocacy group. And he was great to talk with, and he was very pro, sidewalks, and he also shared a memo that, Jennifer Willer had sent to city council about sidewalks and some of the things some of the suggestions that might, actually, anyway, what it was just a whole lot of action this week, after I was actually, I think Peter and I both went, we were pretty surprised that he was so action oriented and they'd already done so much. We were like, oh, so I was kind of today going like, is this still relevant? And I think it is, the questions are still relevant. The only edits I would do is to really even more so acknowledge the staff for what they've already done, in that first paragraph, because I think there's some really clear things, and we've been really super encouraged by that, by working with Jody. We've talked with Rob, we've talked with Rich. I know that I heard that Jody and Willow met with some wheelchair users just yesterday, so we were talking with them about sidewalks, and I just feel like, wow, it's just so cool. It just feels like there's action now, and so the questions I think are still relevant, but that would be my one change, is that maybe we acknowledge some of the forward action that's been happening.
Is there a time span that we want to capture for that action acknowledgement?
What do you mean?
Like the actions that's already happened since like May or January, or I
don't know. I would have to just kind of add a little, I think we could still approve it and maybe just add some more acknowledgement.
And
or is that-
do you think the first part is like, report back on the meeting with Rob and Jody, do you feel like they've already kind of done that?
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're okay with that.
So we could probably strike that part.
So,
Right.
maybe cut that out and just say, this is what we'd like to see
In 6
within
months.
6 months, how,
Right.
a progress report in effect.
Yeah.
Right. I guess we could do the acknowledgement when we send out the letter. We could write just a little note along with it or something. So we wouldn't have to necessarily change the letter then, so that we can approve it if people so move.
Anyway, I think what we're asking of the greater ATC is, are y'all interested in hearing about more from staff about sidewalks in detail?
Like specifically responding to these questions and engaging the dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
which could include obviously that being a lot of questions and maybe not getting to all of them, and also other people like having on the spot questions, but.
Do you have something at the tip of your tongue, Rob?
No, I'm just writing some notes because I'm meeting with Jody tomorrow, and so gonna suggest to her that she can come back to ATC. By the way, Rich, I'm pretty sure Rich was, before he started working for the city of Olympia, he was like on their active
Yeah,
transportation
that's what he
committee.
told
Oh
us.
yeah, so I thought that's pretty cool. He's very enthusiastic and just, I think he really gets all the stuff we're talking about. And he seems really like just genuinely, interested in this and moving us forward on these things. He's come to like a lot of our events, including Breakfast at the Bridges and some of our info fairs.
We were thoroughly impressed
Yeah.
and happy with that.
So I wonder, in light of Rob and Jody meeting tomorrow, I guess this is Josh asking like, does ATC approve this letter to go to staff? Is kind of the question.
Yeah, that was the
I
question.
mean, if you
Okay.
could send it to me and Jody, like. we can
Right,
talk about
I just
it.
want to make sure everyone
Yeah.
approves that we send it to Rob and Jody.
Do we have do we need a motion or discussion about where we?
Do you want to make those revisions, or do you just say that they seem to?
Can I just say, I haven't seen the whole library, could I just make a comment a second before you guys take a vote? Like, these are, just from what I can see here, it's like very detailed questions, like when Jody and I are talking about, so we're often like more focused on like. Kind of the bigger picture, I guess I would say, like one of the things we're working on is trying to get our paving program to take on sidewalk repair. So that we can like really take it to scale more, because the one crew is just not gonna, their ability, or like, how do we set up a citywide, really robust like equity program so we can subsidize this? So it's really like trying to scale it up. I mean, I still think, you know, the metrics and trying to like look at, I think that's good. And I think like you guys should stay honest for this stuff. Like it's easy, you know, we often have so many things going on. It's easy for things to get slip below the radar. And so, you know, I'm not saying don't ask these really detailed questions. And I see now that I see further down there, some more big picture questions. So kind of like what I was getting at, right? So, yeah. Yeah.
We thought there needed to be just sort of more spurring about action.
Sure.
I think we didn't understand how much action was in place.
Right.
So that's hence the detailed questions.
Right.
But we are
Okay.
definitely interested in the bigger picture
Right, okay.
questions. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all good. I think they're all, no, it's all, I mean, they're all important, right? And so like,
And that was also why there was a kind of a like maybe 6, like it wasn't a do this next month. It was like, here's some homework, like this, you're already doing this work, like this
Yeah.
could take a while, like
Mhm.
we are within 6 months. It was like, also it's been 6 months, so you made progress, but the idea was this. We don't expect you to have the answer to every question at the
Right.
tip of your tongue,
Did Rich-
ever, but also.
did Rich also mention like the idea of having a city council work session? Did that come up? Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't know where that stands. I think it's a request or
Yeah,
a
I'll
suggestion
check.
or
Okay.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do we want a motion with the pending those edits to send?
Yeah, I
this
think the
to-
only thing we're asking to edit
Yeah.
is taking out that first question that was in bold, I think.
I could just delete that.
Yeah.
And then we'd be done.
That'd be
Yeah.
good.
Okay,
And no more acknowledgement of action.
I think when I send this to, I think when I send this out, we can, from our committee, we can acknowledge action. That way we won't have to,
It's more in the email that's.
Rob
Yeah.
here and you can
Yeah.
also pass it along
Thank
to
you.
Jody as well.
Well, there might be a
Yeah.
little wordsmithing just like before that sentence that we just took out, because it talks about what's coming up in the next, I think it's,
yeah, we'll fix it, but
yeah, so we might
close
need to,
enough.
Okay.
yeah.
to follow up on this question, and there's no question.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me.
So, yeah, well, can we approve it kind of with the understanding that committee or Mary actually will wordsmith the,
Yeah, I mean.
yeah.
Charlotte
I'll
is
make
making a motion.
That we submit this with the edits that we discussed.
Mhm. That won't change the substance.
Yeah, not changing the
Yeah.
substance, just the,
Cleaning it up and more acknowledgement.
yes.
Mhm.
A second.
Peter seconds. Does everyone approve? Or all
Drop
those in
something if you
favor?
can See your thumb if you approve or go sideways. Nice, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
are we fine with Rob taking it to Jody and just kind
Yes.
of recognizing that it's not quite.
And thank you for
Exactly, but
thanks
yeah.
to the sidewalk committee for putting this together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and thanks to staff, because, you
Yeah,
know, it's clear that there's a lot more work going on behind the scenes that we had not been aware of.
Right, well, and bringing Jody on has made a huge difference,
my
having
gosh.
someone who can really put staff time into it, so that's been really awesome
That was
also.
a good move.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun to be on a committee that actually like, something happens. What?
Amazing.
What are you implying?
All right, unless there's anything else on the sidewalks, Josh? You wanna move on to the next one? Okay. So the next agenda item is the 24th Ave Protected Bikeway. And Willow, you're gonna give a presentation on this?
I just have this as a 5-minute agenda item because there's no real action item right now. It's more of an FYI. So there's a paving project that was actually supposed to happen this spring and summer that got postponed, and it was to repave 24th Avenue from Agate to Harris.
Hmm.
So this section right here. And we had explored adding protected bike lanes as part, or adding buffered bike lanes to kind of set the stage for protection in the future. It would require parking removal, and there's also some pinch points where there's just not space for it to be buffered. And at the time, it seemed like it wasn't the right time, but there's been some new information, including the way that it's gonna get paved and striped. If we did want to go back and buffer the bike lanes, the entire center lane would have to be scraped up and removed and re-put. So it wouldn't just be removing the bike lanes and putting buffer, it would be changing the whole center lane, which really makes things
Center lines.
center in line, sorry, makes things different. So our team is revisiting it, with the plan that this paving project is happening this coming spring and summer, which is pretty soon, to also be starting a planning process to look at removing parking and adding buffered bike lanes. There's just regular painted bike lanes there right now. So we're gonna be in a condensed community engagement time frame for this. And the purpose of the community engagement isn't like, we don't have guaranteed funding to build a protected bike lane right now. We have some funding in the works, but it's not guaranteed. So we're really in the community having a very clear discussion, like, what does the community want to see? Does it make sense to remove parking and add buffered bike lanes? It's not one of those things where it's like, hey, we're building a protected bike lane. What do you want it to look like? It's really a discussion on like, is this feasible for this neighborhood? So two things. The first thing is that we're gonna need help with parking counts. So that would be something that the ATC could be really, really useful for. We'll send out an Excel spreadsheet, and anytime anyone's in that area, you just pull over and you're like, there are 10 spaces, there are 6 cars parked, there are 3 empty spots, something like that. That helps us a lot with our process and with talking to the public. So we'll get some parking counts, and then we're gonna be launching an engagement. I don't know. We're gonna be launching some engagement. So that'll include a survey, a website, an Engage Eugene page, some open houses, postcard mailers, that kind of thing. So our usual community engagement. But it all needs to happen a little bit faster than normal because we have a pavement project coming up. So we're expecting to run kind of like Lincoln. Lincoln's community engagement window was like about 3 months. And so we're kind of aiming for about 3 months for this community engagement window too. So it's not like we haven't done it this way before. So just a little bit different. So FYI, keep your eye out. I'll probably be sending an email in the next week or so with a parking count spreadsheet that folks could help us with, and then more information to come.
Are there times of day that you're most interested in getting a parking count?
It's helpful to get parking counts kind of all throughout the day. So not necessarily, whatever is convenient in your schedule.
Yeah, I think evenings and weekends are helpful too. Can I
Yeah,
just say a couple things, like,
sure.
I
Yeah,
mean,
add
this,
some extra context.
it's pretty parked up, and I think that was part of our hesitation before, and it's not in our TSP to put in buffered or protected bike lanes. We don't really have a category for buffer in the TSP, but our student to be adopted design guidelines do call for buffered bike lanes as a standard in our arterial streets. And so we can use that to sort of justify it. But the neighborhood associations were pretty lukewarm, or, not really supportive. They weren't necessarily against it, but they weren't supportive of it either. So we were just we had a lot of other projects going on. We were looking at removing vehicle lanes around town or parking lanes, and we were just kind of like, we had our hands full right now, but we thought about it some more and just how it would be hard to undo the pavement project with the striping in the center line. And when you erase the center line, you still have like the ghost of the old center line. It just doesn't look very nice. And so we're just like, let's just pull off the Band-Aid, let's do the public process now, and we'll make a decision about whether to move forward with buffered bike lanes, which could be protected in the future. So, and I think, are we gonna go from like Hilliard all the way to Agate for this process?
Right, so the paving project is Agate to Harris, but to Hilliard is where like the buffering starts. So from Hilliard to the path is already buffered, I believe. So that's already buffered. So we're gonna be talking about, there's a section that's buffered. I can't remember where exactly the section
From
is.
Hilliard to the Amazon path is a buffered bike lane.
In front of the
There used to be
YMCA.
parking.
To the Amazon.
Yeah.
But east of Hilliard.
No, east of Hilliard is not
That's
buffered,
right, so
and
that's what we're
what-
saying, this process will look at, even though the paving project only goes to Harris, in order to have more of a cohesive corridor, we're gonna look at the area for parking removal and putting buffer bike lane in from Hilliard to Agate.
Right.
Okay, and then I think as part of that, we can look at the Alder crossing that's been raised, right? And then, we're at a future time, we'll also look separately at Amazon Parkway to Willamette Street as a separate. Cause that's also an important part of the network.
But it's like slightly different. It's slightly
Yeah,
different.
Different area,
So,
probably even harder to take parking off there, cause there's just not a lot of parking around there at all, but.
but the decision to move forward with pursuing a community engagement process for this happened like a week ago. So we're still in really early stages of figuring out how are we gonna talk about it.
That was 2 days ago, I think.
2 days ago. I found out about it 2 days ago. So we're in super early stages. I just kind of snuck it onto this agenda because I feel like y'all need to be up to date on it. So a lot more information to come, a lot clearer information to come. I know that I'm probably not like speaking about it super succinctly because we still have to get all our talking points together and our like clear, concise information.
Is
Yeah,
the
that-
main objective,
That bike lane down by Agate is super skinny. It's,
On 24th?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just at night, you just.
Mhm.
I think we'll probably get a lot of feedback from people biking during the survey and during the process, and ATC can be a
It's
part of
skinny, but
that.
It's just, yeah, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not comfortable.
is the main objection from the neighborhood associations about parking?
I think so.
Yeah, because isn't it, wouldn't you guess that some of that is university parking?
Oh, yeah.
They park all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the
Yeah, we don't,
objection. probably.
that's what we're kind of wondering is like, who's parking there? Is it the people who live right there?
I know they park
Is it-
all,
because it-
everywhere they can. I live in that
Right,
neighborhood.
yeah,
and
it's
we
the
have
closest
neighbors-
parking to campus that's not like where you don't need a, like a
Permit.
permit, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah, limited parking by 2 hours there.
Right.
right. And there's a little part of University Street by the park, but otherwise this is it. And so, you know, is it, who's parking there? That's, you know, it's kind of hard to, we're not gonna like look up their license
No, but
plates
maybe time
online
of
or
day
anything,
would tell
but
us
so it's
that,
just, you know.
sort of.
And I think the survey might help too.
Yeah.
So that's really what this is about. Is like, we're just trying to get more information about this place so we can make an informed decision about what to do rather than just repaving it as is, because that's, we don't have time, you know, we don't have the capacity to get to it. So we're kind of pushing ourselves a little bit to get out there and just talk to people and figure out what the situation is so that we can make an informed decision before the paving project happens.
What was the impetus in the first place, Willow? Why that section in particular?
Oh, for
It's
paving?
being paid, it's a bond.
Deteriorated, it's a bond measure paving project, so.
No, but even just, why not just restrict the bike lanes as is? Why put in buffered there in
Because
those
they're
blocks on
getting
24th as opposed to so many, I mean, the rest of 24th between, say, Hilliard and Willamette?
Because those are not up for repaving, so.
So it's just taking advantage of the
Taking
opportunity of this being repaved?
Exactly.
Also, we already have buffer bike lanes from the Amazon path to Hilliard, so this would be extending that further east. So like, we like to think of our, like, when we think of like our high level neighborhood greenways like Alder Street, our protected bike lanes and our shared use paths are like our all ages and abilities network. So we want to, you know, it's always good to build from strength and then extend that out rather than building an island of protected bike lanes somewhere.
You see a lot of Roosevelt kids ride their bikes on
Yeah,
24.
the proximity to the.
Oh, no doubt,
Yeah,
no doubt. I'm
also-
just saying, but you said from Amazon path to Hilliard, there's not protected, it's just an open bike.
No,
lane.
it's buffered.
It's buffered. That means it has 2 stripes instead of just one.
There's a space between the bike.
Oh, that's what that is.
Oh, sorry, that's probably confusing. So a
Yeah,
buffer,
sorry.
so a buffered bike lane is separate from a protected bike lane. Buffered just means we create 2 stripes of paint.
Got
It's
it.
basically claiming space for future protection.
Got it.
And so it's like, if we want to protect something eventually during a paving project, it makes a lot of sense to paint it now, claim the space, and then in the future we can. have
Thanks.
And it does provide more
It's done.
separation from other vehicles, even though it's not like a hard protection.
It
There
adds
used-
some additional.
There used to be parking on Roosevelt, on 24th there that we removed.
To add the buffer, existing buffer. Yeah, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what effect it would have on the speed of traffic on 24th too, because that's
Yeah. I
one of the
think-
problems at that intersection with Alder is that people just come flying in.
And we may look at a speed limit reduction as well. So that's like one of the things that me and the planners have chatted about. So it's like, we're just starting a community process. We'll hear what people say and we can kind of go from there. So stay tuned.
Willow, you also have the next agenda item.
Great.
Which, since we're skipping the Oakway report out, will be for protected bikeway survey.
Nice. And I have the one after that as well. Okay,
Yeah.
it's on to me. I think I can turn this light on, and I don't know if I need all the time for the protected bikeway survey.
Yeah.
But the protected bikeway survey is live. I have published it. I haven't done much push for it yet because I haven't had time. But it has gone in motion and I did put it on social media and we already have 212 responses, which shows a large appetite for people wanting to talk to the city, that it's even spread that far with very minimal push. I have some signs that are getting delivered tomorrow that me and my team are gonna put up all along the bikeways so that people who aren't plugged into our newsletters and stuff, but just bike on the bikeways will see access for them or see the survey. So we're gonna be doing some deployment along the bikeways. and additional marketing. So I guess I just wanted to say, if you haven't taken it already, it's in motion, which I think I automatically add ATC members to when they sign up. So it should be in your inbox if you haven't gotten in motion. It's also on our website. So if you just type in City of Eugene Transportation in Google, it's on the homepage there. Or you could wait for me to put the signs up on the bikeways and then you can scan it with your phone once that happens as well. And then if you can share it with other folks you know who use the bikeways, or share it in your networks, that would also be really helpful.
Can you remind me what day the In Motion goes out? Is it the first of the month, end of the month?
In Motion went out this month on October 1st, I think, or it might have been
Okay.
September 30th.
Okay.
Yeah. To look back in your email for it.
Mm-hmm.
Typing in City of Eugene Transportation on Google would be an easy way to access it too.
And it does take 10-15 minutes probably to do this survey, so, you know, give yourself time.
Yeah, it's designed to be quick if you really just want to like go through the bullet, like just go through and select all the things and not leave comments. If you're wanting to leave comments, schedule yourself a little bit of extra time to type about specific intersections or other things that you want to share.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm excited. We already hit like with 200 responses, that's already enough to begin analyzing results. And we haven't even put the signs out yet, so I'm excited to see how much response we get. Okay, any questions about the protected bikeway survey? Once we get the results, I'll come back and do a presentation on what we heard, which I think will be really interesting.
When you get a bunch of responses, is that people saying, where did this?
So far, no.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so far, no. In fact, I have been surprised with the responses so far. It's been generally quite positive. Oh, I see that Brad has his hand raised. Yes, Brad.
I just raised it, so don't worry. Go ahead and complete your thought.
Oh. Yeah, response has been generally positive so far.
Good. When you brought it up before, and we may have done it, and then we talked about it a little bit, you want us to do it again?
Oh, great question.
Are those answers live or in the mix?
Yes, great question. So when I had sent you all the draft version, that did not save your responses. Because it was actually quite different. That draft I sent you, I took a lot of your feedback and incorporated it. So those answers are not saved. So please retake the like new live version. So if you in your brain have only taken it once, that response probably was not recorded. So gotta take it the second time. Thank you for that question, Brad.
Sure.
Pass that to Lucy. This is probably take one of
Thank
those and
you.
pass it around. So you also on the ATC, so you get to have information that isn't really necessarily on the website. This is our draft schedule for 2025 projects. Things that we're expecting to go into construction for spring and summer. It's not like a set in stone list, so oftentimes things change. So just be aware of that. Most of these are paving projects. Our paving project like method is pretty set. So we do paving projects. We often update curb ramps and occasionally add bump outs when a project is getting paved. So those projects are, you know, there's probably not a ton to add to those, but it'd be worth looking at, especially if it's relevant to you. And then there's some other projects listed on there, like
Sidewalk projects.
some sidewalk projects, some underpass projects. I don't have a ton of information about these, so my thought was the infrastructure subcommittee could potentially go through these. And if there are like specific questions that you have, you could email them to me and then I could meet with Reed and get more information about what's expected. I will say if it says paving, it's probably just plain old paving with maybe a few updates. But feel free to just send me like, I want to know more about this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then I can get additional information. I don't have that information in my head. Surely.
Thank you, Willow, and this is great to have this proactively. I'm wondering about what the protocol is for rolling stuff over from the previous year. So for example, there was supposed to be a stretch of West 11th that was repaved, including a crosswalk and a couple of bump outs, and I think it's Jody who does that, yeah? Anyway, that didn't happen this summer, and last I heard that particular project's on hold.
What do you mean Jody does that?
Isn't she, was she my main contact?
Catherine, maybe?
It's Catherine, sorry, Catherine.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And anyway, last time I spoke with her, she said it's on hold, so I'm wondering what the protocol is for, keeping track of that, where it didn't happen this year and we hoped it would.
Right. I don't know. Do you have?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I don't know how you got, there's a bunch of projects here that are like several years out.
Okay,
Yeah, so we should
Yeah.
probably come up with a more refined list for next month.
okay, yeah, Reed gave this to me.
Oh, really? Weird. Yeah, the West Bank Path extension is several years out. Berkeley Park, Lincoln even is, I don't think we're building that till 2026 at the earliest, because we're just getting an engineering firm on board now.
Is he including things that are in the planning phase?
Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah,
some-
there must be,
Some
yeah.
stuff on the
Hunsaker's,
schedule that he sent me spans a couple years.
Got it.
So there might be some on here that are like in the engineering phase, so the planning maybe is most,
Yeah.
like the planning is expected to be finished by
Right.
2025, and so 2025
That could
is like engineering and
Yeah.
and for some of them construction.
But
So adding the phase.
also,
might
there's
be
ones
good.
here that we haven't done yet that we were supposed to have done this year
Mhm.
that we didn't do.
So they may have been
So
rolled
like
over.
11th,
Yeah.
so we just need to work on this because
We can pass it.
I was just like earlier this week, right? But I will say like the 11th project was gonna have some curb extensions. Hopefully projects like way over budget, hopefully we can keep those in because I think they're really important.
Yes.
And then also Hilliard, the Hilliard project, which I think is 24th Avenue and Hilliard and part of Alder, like south of 30th are all one paving project. On Hilliard, we're gonna be extending the shared use path into Tugman Park all the way to the south end of Tugman Park. So you have that white, and we're gonna fix some of the part, well, hopefully fix some of the parts where we didn't do such a great job when we built that extension in the first place, and also widen the curb ramp at 34th. This is probably a little more detailed than most of you. Some of you might understand why that's important. It's not, doesn't work very well for bikes. That's probably the best, like, active transportation project on this list
So
of,
that's really like, what, 33rd?
37th, I think it goes all the way to 37th.
yeah, on the west side of here there.
Okay, and that is.
Yeah, several years
expected
ago.
this year?
Yeah,
The-
when we did the active Amazon project, we extended just to like the north end of Tugman Park, but because there's like wetland soils in the parks. We didn't have the time to do the permitting because it was federally funded. So that, anyway,
Okay, so very draft list. If you have questions about any of these, they are all identified projects.
I'm
So
really
if you're-
excited. One project I'm really excited about is the sidewalk infill in Bertelson, which is like far west Eugene between the
Mhm.
13th and 18th or 11th and 18th. You know, there's no, I mean, that's a connection, that's a really important street.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of like
People live along.
very modest housing there. People live there. There's MX on 11th and there's the Fernridge Path that, you know, so anyway, that's one project I'm excited about.
Okay. Sounds like we have some additional information we need to get you all, but I do think that this list is an okay starting point.
Yeah.
So if you do have things that you want to know more information about, feel free to message us, and then next month I'll try to bring an updated list for everybody. How's that sound?
For some reason, West Bank Path Extension is on there twice, or those separate, two separate.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's
I
just a
mean, one
mistake.
gives streets and the other doesn't. I don't know.
I think it's the same, but I don't
One of
understand.
them shared use.
Enhancement, and one's a.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the
Good
enhancement
lighting
one
or something.
is.
We will bring more information next
Okay.
time.
By the way, just a couple quick things too related is that we're supposed to be opening the Amazon path by the 20th or 21st. So, but the creek project's gonna not finish this year, and so they're gonna button it up for the winter and finish it next year. So I'm not sure the pedestrian bridge might not be open until next year. I don't know about that, but at least the path will be open.
Soon, or?
I heard the 20th or 21st, that's what Reed said today, right?
So
So
coming up,
I think the bridge looks really nice, but I'm bummed if it probably won't be open this year, but you never know, I could be wrong.
And it sounds like they're putting in the lights on the Fern Ridge path.
Yeah,
Mhm.
solar lights.
Very good, yeah.
they just started closures today. They're doing kind of a walking closure.
Okay.
And putting in the foundation's already built, so the poles are slowly gonna go in, and then we'll have some solar lighting.
And that means you can't steal the copper wire because there's no copper wire to steal, so.
And some underpass lighting is gonna be starting in the
Yes.
next month or so as well on Fern Ridge.
Do you know what times of day they'll be working to install this? Like, is it like 9 to 5?
During working hours.
Oh,
Yeah, KLCC said it's closed. And
It's closed, yeah, and there is a signed detour
Yeah.
onto the sidewalk on 11th,
It's not.
which is not great.
Yeah.
But it is kind of only option.
Nice.
So Rob, if I heard you correctly, they're pretty much gonna stop construction along Amazon right now.
Sometime this
soon.
fall, I don't know when.
And then the rest of that, because it looks like they're about halfway done, the rest of that's gonna be sometime in 2025,
That's my understanding.
spring or summer, probably.
What do you think are, sorry. What do you think are like the top 2 or 3 projects for next year?
Like from an active transportation perspective, is that what
Yeah.
you mean?
I guess.
Well, definitely Hilliard, I would say is.
Yeah.
A big one because of that, and we're doing traffic comment in Hilliard too, so. I don't know, it's not a big year for building stuff, so I don't know that, I mean, we should probably talk about that on the team. and just-
Yeah, I
That'll
think
probably
we
be a
should.
good thing for the team meeting to just review.
Yeah, let's
what
put
we're
it on the
building this
agenda.
year.
We are at 60% design for the West Eugene pedestrian improvements project, which is largely Move Huge funded, and that's the Bertelston sidewalks. A rapid flashing beacon at Royal and Verdenson, some traffic calming where we're adding speed humps near Peterson Barn. And then the Empire Park Drive at Highway 99. We'll have there's like a desire line that people are using, and that'll be turned into a map as well. To kind of help people stay away from the driveways. So there's some really cool pedestrian projects happening in that part of town that I think will really benefit the people who live and work out there.
You know, another project I thought we would be building this year is the Prairie Maxwell project, which connects to that kind of, but I don't know.
West Eugene, through the Move Huge process, a lot of sidewalk infill projects were green lighted.
And that's not Move Huge even, that's
Oh,
just
it's
from a
not?
federal
Oh, great.
grant, yeah, so I don't know.
That's just sidewalk improvements, is that what it's?
Yeah, I mean, it might be, I don't know if there's any bike lanes or not. But it's basically like to be able to walk or bike from like the Bethel neighborhood to River Road. So it would connect to
Yeah,
the
it's-
Maxwell Bridge. We're not gonna
I'm
do
so
it.
glad they built a different window, because I don't have to go to that one anymore.
Now you guys get to bike up Coburg Road.
Yeah, exactly, that's the mere hazards of Coburg Road, yeah.
Totally out of order here. I'm gonna sneak in a quick announcement. CEO of Lane Transit District was at my neighborhood meeting earlier this week. Really impressed. They're trying to reframe and being a mobility organization, not just a bus organization. There's a State of the District event at University of Oregon on October 15th. Do you know the timing by chance?
Give me 30 seconds, I can get that.
And it's over at school, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. That, I'm gonna try to make it. It might be wonderful if various of us could make it as well.
Yeah, it's at 5 p.m. in the Ford Alumni Center. October 15th, State of the Transit District.
Nice. Thanks. We're actually kind of in announcements and information and project updates, which is why I shared the West Eugene project. So yeah.
Well, during my presentation, I briefly mentioned that I'll be doing a site visit to the area that we were discussing earlier, and that will be a week from Friday. And we'll meet at the get the name of the hall at Bushnell, 11th and Alder at 4 o'clock next Friday. And that's timed so that we can watch people cross railroad tracks on the way to the football game with Purdue, I think it is, that starts at 5 o'clock. So you're all welcome, invite other people. I'll send out a little email announcement. And then
Could you give me a date and time again?
it's 4 o'clock next Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday.
So the 18th?
That's right, the 18th. Yeah. And then coincidentally, I'm very interested in this, the APBP, which is the Association of Bicycle and Pedestrian Professional Webinars. Next Wednesday at noon is called Moving from World-Class Trails to Fully Connected Mobility Networks. So that is at noon, and that's in the Sykes building. What's the name? Is that the name of the building?
Our building?
Yeah,
Yep, the old Sykes building.
old Sykes. Yeah. Anyway,
It's at our
Sorry, Ellen,
office.
can you say that again, please?
the time and place, or
Yeah, for the event. this
Yeah.
Mobility.
yes, that's next Wednesday at noon.
And what's the title of the
It's
event?
called Moving from World-Class Trails to Fully Connected Mobility Networks.
Reed usually sends us out
Yeah, he-
invitations to those, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he usually does. I just wanted to learn this one because I think it's especially relevant to the conversation. Cool. And next month is something good too.
BPAC.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, everybody, Carly Springfield on the BPAC. And we had a meeting earlier this week. Just earlier this month, we do a variety of safety audits. We do them mostly walking, but we did a bicycle safety audit in early October. And so we rode our bikes from downtown Springfield, north on Pioneer Parkway. There is some, a multi-use path there that's separated from the road. And then, I don't know if y'all are familiar with like the Harlow Road area. There's a roundabout there that's, pretty terrifying to go through on your bicycle. So we looked at that. We rode over to the Gateway area, and the shopping malls, kind of that section of town. It's really interesting. It's kind of a patchwork of city of Springfield land and county land. And so like a lot of things that are not well connected in terms of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, because the county hardly ever doesn't have the money to, address that kind of infrastructure need. So the city of Springfield is getting some of those areas like transferred over so that they can, develop better connections in that part of Springfield, like middle north Springfield. Funny, it was really good to do like a little bike ride. That was the, I think, first time in a long time that we did like a bicycle safety audit. We'll do our annual report at the end of the year. And then probably the most important thing is that Drew Larson, who's the transportation planner for City of Springfield, got grant funding to do a bicycle and pedestrian or active transportation master plan. So that's gonna be the first one for Springfield. And work on that, I think we'll start in like 2025. Great.
So the bicycle audit, your bike safety audit, I think you called it, you're just using that, then you'll use that information for future projects, just sort of ongoing information for you?
Yeah, we, I think a number of things like, having that in our mind in terms of projects that we want to hear about or suggest. But, specific recommendations made to city council.
Okay.
So we're hoping to get from that.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, my next thing is that we are in October right now, which means our next meeting is November. And that means that we're gonna be opening up ATC recruitment for new members and that we will have several members terming off. People who have reached their 4-year term limit and have to step off, and then potentially a member or two who elects to step off. If you are reaching your 2-year term, you can automatically do another 2 years without having to reapply or anything. So that's where I'll send out before our next meeting, sort of everyone's name and what term they're at, and if they have to term off, and then everyone else gets to say, yes, I'd like to continue for another year, or no, I'm gonna step off the committee. And then that'll give me an idea of how many spaces we have for ATC recruitment. So keep your eye out for that email. I think the best way is I'll just email everyone, and then if you can just email me back with a yes or no, that you are continuing or not. Awesome, okay. And yes, Peter.
I am no longer able to be the BPAC
Oh,
liaison
yes.
as well because I have a job on Tuesday nights, unfortunately. So if anyone is interested in taking over that, so that'd be pretty much 3 times a year because I'm only doing it at every other BPAC meeting, and BPAC meetings are every other month. So if anyone has Tuesday nights available for like 3 Tuesdays next year,
It's
just like,
the even months of the year.
yeah.
So you share it with someone?
Shares it with Brad.
Brad,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah, Brad.
Yeah, we're sharing it and it's really nice to share it. So anybody?
Do we have any takers?
Rob.
Okay, let's see if we have any takers for sharing the BPAC liaison role with Brad.
Can think about it. That's not,
Josh will think
not a
about
hard,
it.
yes.
Good, but I
So,
Once.
you'll have a lot of-
Charlie's not here, we can volunteer him.
Josh, you'd be great. Come on.
I just, I kind of want to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me know.
yeah, it doesn't seem too bad. Might actually.
It's always good to have an excuse to go to downtown Springfield. It's pretty
And
hot
actually,
there.
it's pretty-
Yeah.
They've really done.
And I
something.
believe the meetings are remote, right? Or have you started meeting in person now?
They're hybrid.
Oh,
you
hybrid,
can-
okay,
Yeah.
so you can choose.
Online.
Did you have an announcement?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, just on the LTD state of the district thing, if you wanna, you have to RSVP.
Oh, you do.
So if you go to their website and you click on about, I think it's about us and then news and events. and then events, and then you'll see it, and if you click on it, it'll say how to RSVP.
Do you want to send me that link on
Sure.
Teams? I'll email
I mean, it's
it.
just their events, kind of, they don't have like a more specific link,
What
but
would
yeah, I'll
happen
send that
if
to
you
you.
just showed up?
I don't know. Probably, probably.
You wanna crash the state of the district? Doesn't seem like you. So, and then I have a couple other announcements. So LT is going through a process right now called their STIF, which is where they're the statewide transportation improvement fund, which is these relatively new fund that's paid for through payroll tax on employees, that's provided lots over, hundreds of millions of dollars for transit around the state. And unfortunately, they couldn't spend all their money for the first couple cycles because of COVID and they're not having enough drivers. So they actually they have like $10 million that they're rolling over into the next cycle. And I think they're proposing like for 3 million of it to go towards expanding the bike share system and electrifying it. And so, in fact, Brody Helden and from Cascadia Mobility and Dave Roth from LTD are in Philadelphia this week at the National Association. It's the National Bike Share Conference. I don't remember exactly what the acronym is. And they're trying to look for like, what are the company, who can we buy this equipment from? And can we look at having a system that's not just like bikes, electric bikes, but maybe like some non-electric bikes too, or some e-scooters, or, just some different kinds of vehicles. Because we know some people don't like to pedal. I don't understand it, but they just like to just stand up and have a throttle. So, we'd like to have kind of a mixed system if possible. So, another thing working with LTD is that they're working on transferring some funding to us. It's, we don't have a contract with them yet, but the idea is we're going to be able to finish working on the planning for that moving ahead process. And we're going to be focusing on River Road and Highway 99 with those funds. So, and especially River Road. So really looking at how to make it safer, how to make it more walking and biking friendly, and how to make it work better for buses. So, I'm sure, and Jody will be managing that process for us. So I'm sure we'll be back at some point for that. We also have funding to do a Coburg Road refinement that's separate from that. So that's another project we'll be working on at some point. And then we did MLK mostly already. So that's kind of then we'd be done.
Yeah.
So we just have to get funding. This is just the planning, not the implementation. So.
Okay, we have 1 minute left. I sent out an email a couple days ago about an LTD system review letter of support.
That's right.
LTD was basically saying, we did this system review and we've talked to you about it. Do you approve? The main bulk of their system review is that they're going to be increasing frequency on a handful of corridors. That seems like something the ATC could be like, yes, we approve of this. I wonder if the co-chairs might be open to putting something together.
Did they present it to us, you said?
Yeah.
Do you mean like writing a short letter?
Yeah, in the email I sent, it had a draft letter in it,
Oh, okay.
that you all could adjust as you want and send it. I think their turnaround's kind of tight. If you don't have time to do it, that's totally fine. I just thought it might be something that the ATC felt
I
like.
actually sent about 12 draft letters.
Yeah.
So Willow, I would certainly be willing to send that out as a citizen to them, because
Right.
I'm really pleased. So if you could send me that draft letter, so I don't have to do the thinking.
Okay.
I'll send one in as a citizen.
Okay,
Do you
great.
know when they presented? Because if I can look it up and remind myself of what I apparently heard, that I don't. Well, I'd be in a better position to comment on it.
It's earlier in the year. Yeah, March.
Um,
February's
I-
a retreat, yeah.
I will look. I will look and
Yeah,
find
let
out.
me know, because
Yeah.
I could try to throw something together.
Okay.
Once I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion.
Let me just look real quick. Okay, yeah, I will send it to you when they
Okay,
came and talked
okay,
about it,
thanks.
and I'll forward to you, Charlotte,
Great.
if you wanna send a letter. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Sorry for the packed meeting, I'll try and do less agenda. It always- I'm always like, oh, we have-
struggling with agenda.
Oh, man, I was like, that much this month, and then by the time we get to a meeting, it's just like a million things.
Okay, which makes.
By the way, actually, I put it in the chat with you and Trish.
I just.
Oh,
I meant to put it in just our chat, and I'm gonna
So this is-
send you a link to this.